Hey guys, Rich from Rich Mid Gaming. Hope everyone is doing fantastically well, and welcome to my 12 days of Splashmas. So let's start then by just defining at least what I believe a splash character to be. And for me, that is any character that you take in your roster that is out of affiliation. So you've got a gap in your roster for whatever reason, and you're looking to fill that with an out of affiliation character. So secondly then, what makes a good splash character and what are the reasons why you would take them? Well, that's going to change for every single player with every single play style for each different roster that you put together. Because it's so varied and because there are so many options, there isn't a one answer fits all for everyone. However, I'm going to run through some things that you may want to look at when you're building a roster, which will indicate to you where you have gaps. So first of all then is threat value. If you're bringing a roster that just has lots and lots of high threat, or indeed just lots and lots of low threat characters, you may want to look at introducing a couple of 2, 3, or maybe even a 5 threat character to balance that curve out a little bit more. Yes, you want the majority of your roster to sit within that 3 and 4 curve. However, you want to make sure you've got some 2 threat options, but also you've got, at least 1, 5, maybe even a 6 threat option. And the reason for that is we don't know what threat level we're going to be playing when we come to our game. So we need to make sure that we've got a nice curve of all the threats available to us so that we can make sure we come equipped for any particular scenario. So secondly then is filling a particular role within your roster at a certain threat level that you maybe don't already have. Now you've heard me and Quinn talk about how characters fall into one of 3 buckets: control, support, and then attrition stroke aggression. Now, not a single character just doesn't do one thing and that's all they do. You'll often find that it's aggression with control, or it's a main support character, but then they also have an element of attrition in there as well. But that's one of the things that you want to look at. What do you have at each threat level, and do you have something missing? So do you need a control piece? Do you have a team that is just completely low physical defense, and there's a potential you could come up against a scenario that requires you to have physical defense to flip points and that sort of thing? So you need to take a look at your team and make sure you've got a rounded team in terms of capabilities. You also want to look at some complementary things as well. So let's say you're taking a team, and I'm going to use X-Force as an example here, where yes, they have one reroll built into their item set from Cable's leadership ability, but they're quite a dice dependent affiliation to run. They have a lot of triggers, and really most characters don't have a way of being able to fish for those triggers. And you look at Wolverine and Sabretooth and those characters. So taking along something like Baron Zemo, who brings rerolls with him, works really, really well for those guys because they get to fish for those triggers that they need, which makes their abilities pop off so much more. If Sabretooth and you use his finisher move, if that doesn't trigger his follow-up attack, it feels a little bit lackluster. But if you do manage to do that, and that can be aided with the help of a reroll, then it just feels that much better. So you want to try and take a look at everything that you've got, the type of play style that you're going for, the type of competition that you're coming up against, so a particular roster that you're coming up against. So for example, if you're playing really high and you're coming up against a Sam Spam, you may want to look at putting some alternative characters in there that are a lower threat value, so you yourself can go that little bit wider, or indeed just go really tall and bring somebody like a Thanos who can just control and support throughout the entire game. But with all that said and done, let's jump in to my top 12, my 12 days of Splashmas, of characters that I think we're going to see splashed a lot, at least in the first half of 2022 until we get new releases. Because as we know, with new releases, new things are always happening and this game is always changing. So jumping straight in at number 12 then, and this is the first of our reworked characters. There's quite a few reworked characters in this list, but I'm really happy that he is in here. Yes, he's a big investment at 6 threat, but the big green machine is now just an absolute powerhouse. It is, of course, the Hulk. He brings absolutely everything to the game. Very, very much more now on the attrition side of things, where he can just outlast your opponent. Take a field dressing and a med pack can really help him out as well. He can just deal out so much damage, but also you're going to have a lot of fun with him as well. Next up then is the first one of my sort of cheating ones, if you like, where I'm actually bundling or pairing two characters together. And this first one in our list is none other than the deadly duo themselves, Rocket Raccoon and Groot. Both characters have had a rework. I didn't think Rocket really needed one, but by having that nimble on his card, it really does negate the biggest problem he had when he was paired with Groot, in that you can't now just pick Groot up and throw him into Rocket and take him out of the game. That extra range that they've received, with now going from range 1 to range 2 for the bodyguard, but also then the range 3 attack on Groot, makes it that much easier to actually get Groot in the game whilst being able to keep Rocket further back up the field. They also bring two really nice tactics cards with them. First one is Deadly Duo, which I absolutely love. You can just devastate your opponents on the right map setup. But I also really like We Are Groot, the most healing for the power spend in the entire game, and it's not a restricted card. Two tactics cards is quite a big investment, but with the new rules now that we have 10 tactics cards slot in total, I think there's a really good spot for these guys. I think they can slot into almost any roster, and they're going to do a really, really nice job for you. Next up then is another pairing of characters, and one that I have to admit I've only played 2 games with so far, as they were only just spoiled earlier this week, or even at the weekend. But that is Laura Kinney, aka X23, and Gabby Kinney, aka Honey Badger. I have been super impressed with these two the moment I saw their cards, and through playing with them as well. She is just the version of Wolverine that we wanted. She has those inbuilt rerolls, so she is an absolute powerhouse for dishing out the damage, but she can also soak it up as well with that healing factor of 2. Honey Badger is, for me, the new and improved Okoye. She has the bodyguard, but on top of that, she is a walking incinerate bomb. So anyone within range 1 of her, when somebody else is attacking, they're going to roll 1 fewer defense dice, and it stacks with Incinerate as well. So if you take another character that can dish out Incinerate tokens, they're rolling 2 fewer dice, which means that it's just going to help to your attrition game. But also, that bodyguard on there is so, so good. And more importantly, her bodyguard works slightly differently in that it's in range of the enemy character who's attacking, not the defending character, which means you can get her right in the mix of things. Little sis and big sis help with that, moving them both up the field. And yeah, really, really good. They also bring 2 tactics cards with them as well, or in fact, a tactics card each. Jonathan the Unstoppable, I think, is really nice. It's going to be very situational because it won't work on all crisis cards that you come up against. Wolverines, I think, is yet to be proven. It does mean that you need to take Logan with you in your list for it to be viable, and I think there's a lot of ways to be able to mitigate it by bowing people away from each other, because whilst it stops throws and pushes, it doesn't stop bows. So it'll be interesting to see if people make that one work. But even without the tactics cards, just as those 2 characters, I think they're a great 5-threat addition to almost any roster. Coming in at number 9 then is a character that I know has been a firm favourite for lots and lots of people in this game, and they were hoping and praying for a rework, and I think they got one that was better than they ever thought they could. It is Jonathan Blaze, aka Ghost Rider. Now, Johnny Blaze has struggled in this game to find a home. He didn't really have a home in the Defenders because he was 5-threat. Doctor Strange was 5-threat, usually 6-threat when you took him with the gem, and it was just too much in investment to have those 2 big hitters in the same roster. Midnight Suns he fits a lot better in, but actually I really think we're going to see him played in these wider affiliation lists now. So Not potentially Sam Spam, but I think he's got a great home in the Guardians of the Galaxy. But again, I think he can slot in as a 5-threat option for a lot of rosters out there. And he causes some real problems for your opponent, because if they don't attack him, then he's just going to soak up that damage, or soak up that power even, and then give him enough power to be able to use a Hell on Wheels to then do Flames of Hell or Penance there and that sort of thing. But if they choose to attack him, he's then got his tactics card, Deal with the Devil. That means he just comes back into the game with no problems whatsoever. Yes, he's going to use one of your lower threat characters, but I think everyone would agree converting a 2-threat Wong and bringing back Johnny Blaze is most definitely worth it. I think you're going to have a lot of fun with him, but I think he's going to be an absolute powerhouse for 2022 in terms of splash characters. Coming in at number 8 then is the immortal Iron Fist of Kunlun, aka Danny Rand. Quinn always makes me use his full name on there. Now, Danny Rand is an interesting one because he's one of the very few characters that almost fits in all 3 categories. He brings support with his tactics cards Hero for Hire, which essentially is an improved bodyguard that's really, really nice. He can dish out some damage as well because he can get around the board with his flying kick. His chi strike is really, really nice with the stun. But also, if you do get enough power on him, 8 power in total, that Iron Fist, he can completely take out a character by slapping an activated token on them, which can be devastating for your opponent. If they're lining up a big player with a big 5-6+ threat character, an Iron Fist at 3 threat just walks up, doesn't even have to do any damage. They just put an activated token on them. It can really, really spoil your day. 3 threat and a tactics card slot. He's going to fit into most rosters really, really easily. Coming in at number 4 then is a character I think is going to be an absolute powerhouse in early 2022, and that is Anne-Marie LeBeau, aka Rogue. She brings absolutely everything you want from an aggressive style character in this game. She saps power from your opponent. She's got 4/3/3 defenses, which is really, really nice. She's got 6/6 stamina. She's got a charge. She has a throw. She's got the mutant absorption that's let you just soak up power from your opponent, and then if you do, if you soak up all that power, you do damage to them. The reduction, so the Kree mutant physiology, which is the damage reduction, is really, really nice as well. She's immune to poison, so up against the sort of Terrigen or even Omega Red, she works really, really well. But I think she's going to be a staple that we see in rosters, a little bit like we saw the 4-threat category being taken by Medusa previously. I think she could become one of the 2, 4-threat characters that we see splashed the most in 2022. So she's not released everywhere yet, but I think once she is, we'll see her get a lot of play. Coming in at number 6 then, just missing out on a top 5 spot, but she has been in the circuit for a long, long time. She's an absolute brilliant control and support piece, and that is Ghost Spider, aka Gwen Stacy. Webline and Lifesaver are the 2 big things that she brings here. Often you'll want to activate her last, so you can then move your opponent from an objective point, or even bring them in closer to the rest of your team for next round. Webline can just cause so many problems to your opponent. You can sit her on a back point, and because it's range 4, more often than not, you're going to be able to pull your allied character out of harm's way. But don't rest on the fact that she can deal some serious damage as well. Being able to add those, I think it's 3 extra dice on her spider technique is really, really nice. And also, freestyle beatdown with the throw as well is really, really good. So she's a solid 3-threat character, and once again, she's going to fit into a lot of lists. Also, she has a long move, which is always nice. Coming into the top 5 then, and the last of what I would refer to as the big hitters, so 5+ threat characters. And for me, she is the best 5-threat character in the game to splash around, and that is Wanda Maximoff, aka Scarlet Witch. You guys know I'm a big Brotherhood player. She's a staple in my Brotherhood list, but she just brings so much damage to the game. Hexbolt and Cruel Twist are two amazing attacking abilities. She's also got a size 4 terrain throw, which can just cause so much destruction. But what really separates her from the rest when it comes to damage dealing is the Chosen of Cthulhu innate ability, allowing her to include failures in her attack, but also her defense and dodge rolls as well. It means that on attack dice, she has a 5 in 8 chance of a success, which is just absolutely crazy. She also brings two really nice tactics cards. No More Mutants, I think, is one that you can potentially leave out if you're taking her and you don't want to make such an investment in a single character, but I would highly recommend taking the Whims of Chaos. It's another card that does a lot of healing that is unrestricted. It can also remove special conditions from your allies, but more importantly, it can dish out those special conditions to your opponents like they were candy. So really, really nice card. Yes, she's a bit of an investment at 5 threat and a tactics card, but she's well worth it. And she, for my money anyway, is the best 5 threat damage dealer in the game at the moment. Next up then at number 4, and just missing out on a top 3 spot, is Felicia Hardy, aka Black Cat. Now, while she may have one of the most ridiculous poses in the game, she brings something very unique in that she has a Master Cat Burglar, allowing her to steal an opponent's civilian or asset token without it costing an action. Really, really nice. Couple that with her grappling hook, which allows her to then move or place herself within range 2, means she can quite often walk up, pick up an objective token or steal an objective token, and then actually get out of the way, out of battle as well. She also has stealth, making it that much easier for her to get out of trouble. And bad luck means that she's actually not a bad objective holder because she negates your opponent's ability to reroll any of their dice when they are attacking her. She's a solid 3 threat. And again, if you've got a game plan for her, she can work absolute wonders. Coming in at number 3 then is Dr. Voodoo, aka Jericho Drum. He is, for my money, the best 4 threat character in the game right now that you can play out of affiliation. Rogue is the other one, but I think she does a different kind of job where she is really just all out sort of damage dealing. Dr. Voodoo brings a whole bunch of other things to the game, and I am going to say that Dr. Voodoo for me is probably the most complex character in the game at the moment. I think the ceiling and his potential is very, very high, but I think his floor is very, very low if you don't play him correctly. You really have to know when to use Brother Daniel, when to keep him on yourself, but also when to get rid of him, because without Brother Daniel, he's coming in at a 2-2-4 defense, so very, very vulnerable, but whilst he's got Brother Daniel in possession, it goes from a 2-2-4 to a 4-4-6, making him a very, very tanky boy from that side of things. He's got some really nice abilities. He's immune to 2 of the biggest special conditions that we've got at the moment in Hex and Incinerate. And again, he has that control piece where he can force your opponent to drop all of their objective tokens and mean that they can't contest points anymore. So really, really nice last turn activation plays potentially with him. You're going to need to put some work in with him to really learn how to make him work. But once you've mastered him, he can be an absolute problem for your opponent, and he can be a really, really good asset for any roster out there. Coming in then at number 2 and just missing out on the top spot is a character from the core box that has had no changes whatsoever to his card. So just showing that whilst people may think there's been a power creep in this game, I would really say that it's more of a feature creep. But characters from that core box that were 3 threat are still worth every penny of their 3 threat today. It is, of course, Helmet himself, Baron Zema. Now, what does Baron Zemo bring that's so good? Well, even without strategic genius, he is a great damage dealer. A long move charge on a 3-threat character is not to be sniffed at. If you can get a way of either reducing what it costs for a charge or getting an extra power onto him round 1, he can quite often get into the middle of the board and already start causing absolute devastation for your opponent. He dishes out bleed, which synergizes well with some characters. His counter strike is really nice. It allows him to do some more chip damage, but it's that strategic genius that a lot of people take him for. Strategic genius allowing anyone or any allied characters within range 2 to reroll 1 die in all of their attack and defense rolls. No, it doesn't count for dodge rolls, it is just those attack and defense. But again, if you've got characters that are fishing for particular triggers, if they're particularly dice heavy characters, he can really help out and eke out those extra points of damage or indeed those extra triggers that he needs. He also comes with 4 mystic defense, which in this day and age of lots of convocation S-type characters is most definitely not to be sniffed at. Coming in at our number 1 spot then, and I cannot believe I'm talking about this character at number 1 of any list that isn't the worst characters in the game, because 6 months ago this guy was nowhere to be seen. He didn't have a home in the game. He was far underpowered for his threat level, but Benjamin Poindexter, aka Bullseye, is most definitely a 2-threat powerhouse now. Yes, he lost a little bit in terms of his card rework, but dropping him down from a 3 to a 2 threat feels really good. And what he's bringing is damage. That's what he does. He doesn't sit in the control. He doesn't sit in the support bucket. He sits purely in that damage attrition. And he does it in a number of different ways. He's not going to one-shot any characters or, well, apart from my Magneto once that he almost did. But he's just going to be there chipping away, sat on a back point, soaking up those VPs, maybe with an objective token on him as well. But just being able to just chip away at your opponents, dishing out that bleed that just becomes so annoying over this, sort of 2 or 3 rounds. But it's that I never miss, spending 1 power to guarantee that you're doing a damage. I think against all but maybe 3 or 4 characters in the game now who can spend the power to reduce damage down to 0. But you're always guaranteed to do that damage. Pincushion can be devastating if you've got enough power on him. But it's that guaranteed chip damage, that 1 or 2 damage per turn that he's going to be able to dish out, that just really helps. And if people ever do manage to get in front of him, he's then got parting shot that allows him to inflict a damage and then move away short, hopefully getting out of range of any follow-up attack as well. I think we're going to see Bullseye splashed, probably not as much as Okoye, as we saw here, Okoye in the last league, where she was sort of 70% in rosters, but I don't believe any character should be played that much. If they are being, it proves that there's something wrong with that character, but I think we're going to see him as the 2-threat choice for a lot of rosters out there. And there we go, guys. They are my 12 days or 12 characters of Splashmas. But as always, let me know down in the comment section below. What do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Is there a character on there who you've had a lot of success with? If so, head down to the comment section. Let me know which character it is, how you've played them, what success you've had. And let me know if you think there should be other characters that should be in this list as well. Our merch store is now open for all sorts of MCP inspired attire. We've got our Just Row Better t-shirt inspired by none other than Quinn Duggan himself, obviously. And if you haven't already, guys, head over to our Discord. There's over sort of 250 people on there now, very active, talking about roster breakdowns, talking about all things MCP, plus some other stuff on top as well. So we've got a little Hawkeye spoiler discussion going. We've got a Spider-Man spoiler discussion going in there as well. So again, link down in the description below. Head on over and make sure to check that out. There's going to be 1 or 2 more videos popping up between now and the end of the year. On Thursday of this week, we're going to have our very special Christmas edition or holiday edition of the Weekly Bugle, where I'm joined not only by Quinn, but a whole bunch of other content creators and characters from around the Marvel Crisis Protocol world as well. So make sure to check that one out. And we're probably going to do our little spoiler review of Spider-Man No Way Home at some point this week, where we tot up what scores me and Quinn got and who won the battle of predictions. But as always, guys, it leaves me with just enough time to say stay well, keep safe, and until next time, bye for now.